A machine read every history book ever written and decided humans were the real problem. A working class contractor got his entire business stolen by Tony Stark. And a devoted father watched his daughter starve while his prayers went completely unanswered. A lot of these guys were either motivated by a very real issue or they were genuinely wronged. On our spectrum of villainy, let's see who actually was just straight up evil and who was just misguided. Baron Zemo. Here's a guy that wasn't motivated by revenge, world domination, or Nazi fantasies. Baron Zemo was just done very dirty by the Avengers. Not only did they fail to stop a disaster in Sokovia, they pretty much created it. Tony and Bruce built Ultron with zero government oversight, resulting in a city falling from the sky. Zemo, a former Sokovian intelligence officer, spent 2 days digging through the rubble only to find his father, wife, and son dead. From his perspective, the Avengers were an unchecked force whose arrogance cost dozens of civilian lives. And I mean, he's not the only one who thinks so. Even Tony does, which is why he brought up Charles Spencer during the Sokovia debate.
Oh, that's Charles Spencer, by the way. He's a great kid. Computer engineering degree, 3.6 GPA. He decided to spend his summer building sustainable housing for the poor, guess where? Sokovia. He wanted to make a difference, I suppose. I mean, we won't know because we dropped the building on him while we were kicking ass.
At his core, he's not wrong. Giving flawed humans godlike power inevitably results in massive, horrific collateral damage. And he's pretty fair when it comes to his dislike of superpowered people. You know, having shot 5 comatose Winter Soldiers and all. But honestly, while his reasons, motivations, and backstory all make sense, the way he went about it was pretty screwed up. To frame Bucky and manipulate the Avengers, Zemo orchestrated the United Nations bombing in Vienna. Not only did this kill several innocent people, it also killed Wakanda's king, T'Chaka. Think about it from their point of view. This could have destabilized the most advanced nation on Earth, and it definitely put them through a lot of trouble. And besides that, Zemo isn't the most stable guy around. Trauma or not, drowning a guy in a sink is a bit too psychopathic for me. But Zemo's main point was shared by governments and half the Avengers as well. They're too powerful and they're too unsupervised. And that's a recipe for disaster and unnecessary casualties. Killmonger. Born N'Jadaka, he was the son of Prince N'Jobu, stationed undercover in Oakland, California. N'Jobu saw firsthand the systematic oppression, poverty, and over-policing of black people in America and wanted to use Wakandan technology to liberate them. Instead, King T'Chaka murdered N'Jobu to protect Wakanda's secret and abandoned young Erik in Oakland. And to be honest, he had a pretty good argument. Wakanda's not just the most advanced nation, there's a massive gap between Wakanda and other countries. It is kind of like comparing Michael Jackson to Taylor Swift in a who is more famous competition. So when one country has all that power, why not use it to help its own people? Wakanda was a country for people of African descent, and it had the power to help so many, but it never chose that. Instead, Wakanda hid behind a holographic shield and hoarded its advancement, using it only for the nation's own benefit. And as a wise but unlucky uncle once said,
"With great power comes great responsibility."
He was also awfully angry for having his birthright taken from him. Killmonger always felt like he had lost his place in Wakanda due to what happened to his father, and that didn't help anything at all. To be fair, his dad did pull the gun first. But despite his very reasonable story, his methodology was again pure psychopathic villainy. He joined the US military and became an elite Black Ops ghost, racking up so many confirmed kills that he scarred his own body for each one. He destabilized foreign governments for the CIA, participating in the exact kind of Western imperialism he claimed to hate. He had zero loyalty to the people he worked with. He shot his own girlfriend in the head without a second thought just to get to Ulysses Klaue. He murdered Klaue, his ally, just to use his corpse as a ticket into Wakanda. And once he took the throne, the plan was global domination by overthrowing every government he could find. So, yeah, not the most sympathetic case on here. Again, though, can't fault his argument. Why did it take until T'Challa's rule for Wakanda to start helping out? Adrian Toomes. You can't even blame this guy. Zemo was at least a baron, and Killmonger was royalty. They had some direction in life. This guy was just a working-class salvage contractor whose entire business was stolen by the Department of Damage Control. And guess who funded it and made the whole thing happen? Tony Stark. Think about it from his perspective. Billionaires and vigilantes come in, fight over the entire city, make a huge mess, then handle the cleanup themselves. And all that profit goes right back to them and the government. How is that fair? Has anybody noticed a pattern of villains getting their origin story because of Tony? Anyway, the whole reason Adrian became Vulture is that after what happened with the DODC, he had to keep the revenue coming. I mean, a guy's got to make ends meet, right? Well, Adrian decided to try a new way of paying the bills, modifying and selling illegal Chitauri technology.
Business is good.
Imagine every two big thugs walking around with a sonic blaster or something, like the bank robbery that destroyed Delmar's Deli, a staple of his own community. And again, Adrian was a pretty unhinged guy to begin with. The way he vaporized Shocker when he threatened to expose the whole operation? I mean, I get it. He would go to jail, but he was almost too quick with it. And he had zero issues about using that same technology on a 15-year-old Peter Parker, even trapping him under concrete rubble and leaving him to die. It's a reasonable crash out, but I think I draw the line at going after kids and arming your local up-and-coming arsonist with alien tech. Namor. You can't analyze Namor's action without understanding Talokan and Wakanda's choice to expose vibranium to the world. But first, let's just start with Namor. As a child, he witnessed the diseases and enslavement that his people went through at the hands of surface colonizers, forcing them to retreat into the ocean. As a result, he naturally developed zero empathy for the surface world, which led to him being a huge isolationist. And for several years, it was a peaceful isolation. Nobody knew Talokan existed. Even the Wakandans had zero idea that Talokan and its vibranium ever existed. They had zero contact with the surface world and never bothered anybody. And it was going to be this way forever, honestly, until T'Challa's historical speech.
For the first time in our history, we will be sharing our knowledge and resources with the outside world.
And I mean, let's be real. How many conferences in world history end up with the reveal of a secret nation that's more advanced than any other? But it wasn't Wakanda exposing itself that brought danger to Talokan. It was the fact that T'Challa told them about vibranium. This ignited global greed and indirectly raised the question, what if, while searching for vibranium, they discovered Talokan too? And when Riri Williams built a vibranium detector in Wakanda Forever, that seemed less like a faraway hypothetical and more like a very immediate danger. Namor didn't go completely crazy right off the bat. First, he did try diplomacy, welcoming Shuri into Talokan and treating her graciously. His demand was simple. He wanted Riri dead, because anybody with her knowledge could threaten Talokan's secrecy and bring the surface world raining down upon them. Now, as cruel as that sounds, from his point of view, he either nips this problem in the bud, or he runs the constant risk of Riri's tech falling into government hands and causing Talokan's discovery. When Queen Ramonda sent a spy to retrieve Shuri and Riri Williams, resulting in the death of a Talokanian citizen, Namor took it as an act of war and a betrayal by Wakanda. But again, the punishment doesn't match the crime. He went to Wakanda and literally flooded the palace, killing dozens of innocents and Queen Ramonda herself, leaving Wakanda extremely vulnerable. His methods were honestly pretty confusing. He first wanted an alliance with Wakanda, the two vibranium titans teaming up to wage war on the rest of the world. But it was less an alliance and more an ultimatum. If they didn't join, he would attack Wakanda first. After his assault on Wakanda's capital, he turned his sights on the rest of the world. But you also have to understand that this is a guy who has seen nothing of the surface world except constant exploitation, mass murder, and slavery. And that hatred of the rest of the world tainted his entire rule. Gorr the God Butcher. This is the most valid crash out of this entire list to me. This guy spent his entire life hyping up the gods, being a loyal devotee, and what does he get for it in return? He lives on a desolate, nameless planet where his people have suffered through years of drought and famine. And then his own daughter, Love, dies of malnutrition while his prayers for help go unanswered. When he finally encounters his god, Rapu, he discovers a devastating truth. These guys don't care about him at all.
Oh, no, sorry. There's no eternal reward for you, dog!
Gorr's entire character is a man who is completely broken, and at his most vulnerable, the Necrosword played on all of these vulnerabilities. It took advantage of his anger, grief, and despair and corrupted him, but the seeds were definitely already there. Okay, so was this a wake-up call for the gods? Nope. They knew about Gorr and the threat he posed, but they chose to stay hidden in Omnipotence City rather than use their power to protect their followers. And I'm not the only one who thinks that Gorr has a point. In the comics, Thor literally admitted that he was right. I'm not saying that his way of doing things was good. He gets a powerful sword, he's heartbroken, and he suddenly goes on a divine genocide. That's never the way to do things. All I'm saying is show me one dad who wouldn't go off the deep end if they went through what Gorr did. I mean, do we really have to look any further than the Punisher? This guy's entire character is that he lost his family and made it everybody else's problem.
Every time I start moving, I still hear my little boy. I see him, and I hear his voice. He says, "Get him, Daddy." Every last single one of them, get him. That's why I do what I do.
So yeah, maybe this is a hot take, but Gorr's definitely not half as bad as everyone else on here is. I actually think he'd be an anti-hero type if the Necrosword wasn't whispering in his ear all the time. Thanos. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, Thanos. This is a tough conversation. On one hand, he's the single biggest mass murderer in the history of the universe. In 1 second, he gained a kill count that nobody else could ever hope to match. And let's not talk about the dozens of worlds he decimated before he even snapped his fingers. Thanos, being a psychopath, isn't up for debate, but if all villains were purely evil and had no reason to them, movies would be too boring. Thanos backs up his crusade with one core idea: resources are limited, life is not. He believes that all things should be balanced and that currently there aren't enough resources in the universe to sustain the population. So he kills exactly half the population, world by world, with his ultimate goal being to acquire the Infinity Stones so he can set up the universe exactly how he likes it.
Tell me his name again.
Thanos. He's a plague, honey. He invades planets, he takes what he wants, he wipes out half the population.
And a big part of this is what happened to his homeworld, Titan. Thanos went through this exact struggle. Titan was once a beautiful, highly advanced, and thriving world. However, it eventually fell victim to its own success, extreme overpopulation combined with a severe depletion of natural resources. I think Thanos is someone who has the maturity and wisdom to see the actual problem, but like he comes up with the most psychotic, awful solutions imaginable. Even when all this was happening on Titan, he suggested that they wipe out half the population. The response?
They called me a madman.
The thing is, he could have done anything with the Infinity Stones, literally. He could have conjured up more resources. He could have distributed them more evenly. Also, how does he even know how many resources every civilization has? Did he do a survey across the whole universe? But despite how horrible his actions are, his point is real and true. Finite resources are a massive issue even in the real world today. I mean, every other day you hear about how we might run out of water or fossil fuels or something or the other. But I will say this, he is a lot more reasonable than his comic version. That guy just wanted to impress Lady Death. And if you want to know more about that, check out our video on every character versus their comic version. And spoilers, Thanos is an all-time simp. Loki. So I actually think everything that happened with Loki and Thor can be boiled down to Odin being a terrible parent. You can't raise two brothers as equals, then tell them there's only going to be one king, especially when one of them is adopted. Which, by the way, Odin kept quite a big secret from Loki his entire life. And imagine what happens when the brother with an inferiority complex who didn't get chosen to be king finds out that he's not even actually related to these guys. And the thing is, Loki wasn't even wrong half the time. He was pretty right when he said that Thor was too arrogant and hot-headed to be king. And what did Thor do? He proved Loki's point by starting a conflict with the Frost Giants, something Odin exiled him for.
You're unworthy! I own it all, father! Cut you off!
Loki's entire life, his identity, and his constant feeling of being second best were the result of a massive, centuries-long lie. He also wanted to prove he was a worthy son, but constantly felt like he was falling behind and never quite good enough.
I remember a shadow, living in the shade of your greatness.
Okay, so a lot of you are going to point out the whole backstory fair, everything else evil argument here. And you're right. But what I will say is that it sort of makes sense. You have to understand, Loki was raised as the son of the Allfather, king of the 9 realms. He believed it was his birthright to rule over those realms. You can't expect someone like that to think of whether or not ruling over other people is wrong or right. It was all he was ever raised to do. And if he wasn't going to get the respect he thinks he deserves through his family, he decided he'd get it on his own. Ultron. Again, a valid crash out. What's Ultron's main objective? Keep the peace on Earth? What is Earth's #1 problem? Humans.
I'm on mission.
What mission?
Peace in our time.
I'm not suggesting we start killing everybody, but the Battle of New York was one isolated alien incident. World Wars? Humans. 9/11? Humans. Pearl Harbor? Humans. Slavery? Humans. Colonization? Humans. You get the idea. Every single awful problem Earth has ever had was caused by human leaders and governments. So what is a machine, which by the way has access to all of our world's history, supposed to do when you give it that task? Well, Tony is a genius, but I can't believe he didn't see this coming. I mean, what did you think was going to happen? And so Ultron decided that the best way to protect Earth was to get rid of all human beings, which again, extremely bad idea. All I'm saying is that this was a very likely scenario. Ultron took one look at the internet and decided everybody had to go, and I can't really blame him. I feel that way every time I open up Twitter. The Avengers respond to threats and take down problems, but they don't help the world systematically. Ultron decided that instead of waiting around for the next alien invasion, he was going to cut the problem at its root on a global scale. There's a general trend with Marvel villains. They go about the right things in all the angriest, most violent ways, but half the time, you can't ignore what they're saying. Or can you? What did you guys think about this list? Do you think anyone here has a legitimate argument, or are they all just homicidal maniacs with no logic to their actions?